Just Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Yes, hello again. How are you? Welcome to episode 117 of this podcast series. And this time we're going to chat to another fabulous all-round entertainer and panto veteran, Hilary O'Neil.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
Last time in our occasional series looking at the stock pantomime characters, we discussed the role of the baddie. Don't worry if you missed it, that episode is still available. So far, we've had a variety of guests, from celebrities and backstage team members to practitioners and academics. We've discussed specific panto titles, talked about how pantomime is produced, its history and its future. You can check them all out where you normally get your podcasts from, and don't forget to subscribe to the series so you don't miss out in the future. So this time we're going to meet a performer who's a singer, comedian, impressionist, actress and pantomime veteran. She's done everything from Saturday night TV to West End musicals, radio comedy to stand-up and impressions, touring all over the world. She'll be back in panto again this Christmas, and I'm delighted to say she joins me now. Hilary O'Neil, how are you?
I'm really happy to be talking to you. This is so nice. Thanks for asking me.
Not at all. That's our pleasure. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the business in the first place, because I think you went to Laine originally, didn't you?
Yes, so Laine Theatre Arts in Epsom. I had a dance teacher from there, and I absolutely fell in love with her, the way she taught, how good she was. And then two other mates and me auditioned for Laine's, and I auditioned when I was 14. So actually went when I was 16, only ever intending to become a dance teacher, possibly. Really didn't know. Mum and Dad wanted me to go into something normal, as in to earn money, and particularly my dad, who were both loving and supportive, don't get me wrong, but you know, Dad was a bit like, what's this about? No, don't worry. My mum says she's not going to go into the business. Oops. So when I was in, I think, the start of my second year, Betty Lane rang my mum, and I didn't know about this until a long time after. I said, Mrs. O'Neil, I know that you and Harry have no intention of Hilary going into the business, but I don't think you've got a choice. She'd obviously seen something in me. And then a while after that, she offered me a professional dance job at the New Theatre Hull with Ronnie Hilton. Those old enough listening will remember him.
Yeah.
And A Mouse Slid in a Windmill was his big hit. And it never stopped. I never looked back. I became a dancer, then a dancer-singer very quickly, which was called a soubrette, which is an old-fashioned variety term for singer-dancer. And that's how I got into the business. It was Betty Lane offered me a job. That was it.
So as a child, just going back, do you remember going to see panto?
Funnily enough, I talked about this last night with a mate and said, I remember Mum taking me to Guildford, which is my local city where I live in Surrey, and I saw Aladdin. It's a bit hazy. I think Anne Sidney, former Miss World, who's a mate of mine now, ironically, was in it, and I think my mate Derek Griffiths was in it. I might be wrong, but it was I must have been about 10, 12 years old, possibly. But that's my first memory of seeing something magical and colourful. Yeah.
And did it affect you? I mean, did you go away thinking, wow, this is incredible, I want to do something like it in the future?
I came away thinking, wow, it's incredible, and absolutely loved it. I didn't have any thoughts, no, because I didn't have that. I wasn't a child who sang in front of the mirror with a hairbrush, wanting to have a stardom or fame or a career in show. It didn't enter my head. I loved my ballet, tap and modern. That's all I loved on a Friday and a Saturday morning. That was it. And then 14, suddenly auditioning, and then the rest is history.
Did you make people laugh as a kid? Were you a funny kid? I mean, where did the comedy come from?
That's a really good question, because you think, it's somebody in the family. There's only mum, dad and I. There's no big family, and mum didn't have any brothers and sisters. There's nobody I can trace back having any kind of comedic quality. My dad was very quick-witted. He made people laugh at their shop and also at the golf course, playing golf. Dad was very witty. And my mum was good at things like telling stories, but using voices to describe the other person. So she'd become if she said, "Oh, I was at the butcher's," and this woman behind me said, "Oh," she'd do a different voice. And she was also amazing at monologues. So she'd gone to dancing. She was a champion tap dancer, my mum.
Wow.
And she'd gone to elocution lessons, that's right, and drama, lambda type things. And she was quite comedic in doing monologues. She could do the Victoria Wood monologues really well and learn them and do them. So I suppose there's a bit of mum and dad in me. A little bit, yeah.
So you qualified, you were a dancer, then a
Yeah.
singer-dancer, and you had some fantastic opportunities early on with the likes of Ken Dodd and
Yeah.
summer seasons at Blackpool, various other places, London Palladium. You must have worked in those early years with, I mean, Ken Dodd, to name one, quite a few panto legends.
Yes, in the panto side of things, I worked with lots of different people, and Ken Dodd was I suppose, such an iconic job because that was the Blackpool Opera House. I just left being in a 4-part harmony group called Stutz Bear Cats in the West End in a show, and I decided to leave the group, and Miss Laine, Betty Laine, offered me a job with Ken Dodd, and that's how that came about. So I was back doing dancing again, but very happy to be there. And then the Palladium 2-week season at the Palladium with Ken Dodd, and I did other stuff with Ken over the years. Phenomenal. I can't speak about him highly enough. And seeing him through my career at various stages, either working with him or going to see a show, meeting him afterwards and chatting with him, etc. But yes, lots and lots of well-known people, too many to name. I've done 42 pantos now.
Wow.
I think this is at Windsor this year will be my 42nd or 43rd. I've lost count. But yeah, plenty of lovely starry names along the way, and all of which were lovely. There's not a very bad tale to tell about anybody. And even people that came to the mix that weren't what I call theatrically trained, but were put in for box office reasons, you know what I mean? All came good. People like Olympic gymnast Suzanne Dando, for example. She was my Cinderella with Bernie Clifton one year. And she was adorable and she's a mate to this day. But you just, when you go, oh, what's she going to do? A backflip or something, you know? But in all credit, she could sing, she could dance. She was just adorable. She did the most beautiful acting in the kitchen scene with Bernie Clifton as Buttons. She was really terrific. So, you know, I'm always never quick to judge with those circumstances. But yeah, I've worked with some absolutely gorgeous people.
No, and I tell you what, if you'd asked her, she probably could have done a backflip as well.
She did.
Just you mentioned
She
Stutz
did.
Bear Cats. I was going to ask you about that because there was a time when Stutz Bear Cats was absolutely massive and never seemed to be off the telly screen.
I did 3 TVs with them. We got together. It was an audition. I got the job. Then I got a phone call the next day once I'd heard I got the job saying, we've got a West End show in 3 weeks. It was such a shock because the producer was a friend of Chris Hennon's. It was John Redgrave. And he was putting a show on called That's Showbiz at the Phoenix Theatre in London. And it was all about variety coming back. And it was 14 dancers, Waltzing Waters, comedians. And Bobby Davro was on the show. That's where we became mates at early doors when he was, I think I was 20, he was 21 maybe. Mm-hmm. And we did it. We got the job. And then we got a Pebble Mill at 1. Then we got Pebble Mill at the second week because they liked us so much. They asked us back. And that was scary, doing live telly. And then Russell Hart, I can't believe it sounds so dated. Russell Harty live from the Phoenix. So we did a spot on that. And it was not long after that. It was a limited run in the West End. But anyway, I decided I wanted to move away and do other stuff. So I left. But they were and are, well, they're not active now, but what a vocal lineup. There were several different Stutz over the years. I'm in touch with a couple of them even now, 3 or 4 of them even now. Yeah, they did some amazing TV shows, really good stuff all over the world as well, and cruised, of course. Fantastic act. Very proud to have been a founder member.
So you've got to this sort of stage in your career and you still haven't done comedy. So when did that shift happen?
The definitive moment was 1984. I was in the Isle of Wight doing a summer season with Janet Brown and Bernie Clifton and the Simmons brothers and Kenny Martin and Nick Thomas and John Conway were the producers, and they gave me 3 Sunday concerts to do. And I was just going to go and do 3 numbers. That was it. Frankie Howard was one show. Lenny Bennett was another. The Great Soprendo was another. And forget the other. Oh, God, it doesn't matter. And I said to them, can I try a bit of comedy out in between the songs? And they very trustingly said, yeah, go on. Yeah. And I hadn't got honestly, I did a few little impressions for my friends, but I sort of cobbled together Gladys Pugh, Sybil Fawlty, Prince Charles, Jimmy Cricket, Roland Rat, I think, and kind of worked them in between the three songs I was doing on the Sunday concerts. And that is how it started. Then my mum entered me into a talent show. She wasn't that sort of mum. She wasn't Mama Rose. She was just saw an opportunity. And I went along to Lakeside Country Club and did a 20-minute spot that nobody, including me, had ever seen. I just don't know how I did it. And I got spotted in the audience by somebody who put me onto a TV show called The Fame Game, which was recorded in Manchester. And then a little while after that, I did a few clubs, and I literally mean a few clubs, 5, maybe 4. And then I got the Copycats break in 1986. And that was the absolute springboard into everything else I do.
Yeah, I mean, some of the biggest shows on television you've mentioned already. You pretty soon formed a sort of friendship with somebody else who'd appeared on a talent show who was a winner on New Faces, Marty Kane, and she was very supportive, I think, wasn't she?
Oh, do you know what? I just melt when you mention that lady's name. 1979, Sheffield Fiesta, one of the most beautiful clubs, dinner cabaret clubs in the country. And I was one of 5 dancers. We do a number, the support act will go on, and we did another number, interval, big star, did a full spot. And I was there for 3 months, and Marty Kane was one of our big stars. And she was huge at the time, huge. And I just fell in love with her as a person. She was the most approachable, amiable, kindest, supportive. She came and sit in the dressing room with us. She was, had our big number 1 dressing room, and she'd sit with us with her heated rollers in, with her like a towel wrapped round her and chatting to us. She'd watch us from the wings, do our numbers. Absolutely loved her. So yes, I did get support from her, and I just looked up to her, and seeing her act was the moment everything changed for me. When I first saw a chorus line in the West End at 15 years old, my life changed. I knew I wanted to do something connected with what I saw. Didn't know what, but I went, I need to be part of that, whatever that is. And seeing Marty Kane in 1979, seeing her cabaret act made me go, I want that, but I don't know how to go about it. That was a turning point. So together with Marty, seeing her, knowing that, oh, you can be dressed up and looking attractive or glittery and still do comedy, it works. That's what she made me realise, because I thought you had to look stupid and be like dressed in a weird way or something to get the laughs. Well, no, you don't if the material's good. But yeah, bless her heart, she was a huge impact on me.
Going back to Copycats, such a massive success, and various people came in and out of it, but you were there pretty much all the way through. There is a paradox that comes with that sort of success, because you're seen by such a massive audience that it uses your material, doesn't it? You literally have to just keep on top of it, because when you go back to doing live stuff, people don't want to see what you've already done on the telly.
Honest to God, that is so true. However, lucky us, we had a team of script writers. So I didn't personally have to come up with the stuff. I did at times, of course I did. But there was a massive team of script writers with some of the greatest, well, all the writers, people like Charlie Adams, who wrote for Bob Hope, etc. You know what? I use some of Charlie's lines to this day because they are so funny. Yeah. They don't age, and I'm proud to say they still work with stuff that I've added that's new because the writing's so good. But yes, we churned over a lot of material, and I did do some of the lines from Copycats in my act for many years, because you have to start somewhere, and then you add, and then you subtract, and you take away, and you sort of dump stuff that helps you out to start with, and then you get your new stuff and you find your way. But there was a lot of material used on that show. 86, 87. I did 2 series. There was a series before me, series 1. I did series 2 and 3.
And all the time you're performing in panto, and Copycats and hit shows like that would have made you even more in demand. So how did your panto career progress?
I was always looked after very well by my producers at the time, who were Nick Thomas and John Conway. and was always given a really lovely show every year that they had. And then I progressed to different producers along the way. You know, it means your money goes up a little bit, and then it sort of stayed the
Yeah.
same. Which, you know, I just go, it's just fine. Everyone's got to make money. The producers have got to make money. I was always content with what I had, and yeah, and still, it's one of my highlights of the year. I don't work as much now. I do odd gigs, but I'm not cruising anymore and doing any of that or touring supporting acts. But I pick and choose, and panto is still my favorite thing to do.
Of all the characters that you've played, and you've played a variety, which is your favourite?
Oh, great question. So I really have like played Jack, Aladdin, Dick Whittington, Dandini, etc. I played Cinderella. I've played Fairy Godmother, Bad Fairy in Sleeping Beauty, Wicked Queen in Snow White. So yes, I've done. Okay, being bad is extremely good fun. I have to say, if I was given the chance to be bad again, I would love it. I'd jump at it because I can be funny bad. So they hate me, but they also laugh at me. So I love that. At the moment, the all-time favorite for me was Slave of the Ring or Spirit of the Ring in Aladdin.
Yeah.
I had the most phenomenal Abanazas, starting off with Sean Williamson, who has obviously done loads of telly,
Yeah.
and Carl Howman, Nigel Havers, Gareth Hunt. I mean, I've just had the most lucky streak of amazing Abanazas who've let me have my freedom with the comedy that I need to sort of get in the script to give me that platform to do my impressions or just my funny bit of business, you know. And they've all been so generous and let me do it. I've been ever so proud to say I've worked with some smashing baddies as that. Yeah, I think Spirit of the Ring top, and then I'm about to do Fairy Godmother again, and that's going to be really special. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for comedy there. You mentioned a moment ago spending a couple of weeks at the London Palladium with Ken Dodd, but you spent many more weeks in the West End in plays and musical theatre shows. I'm thinking of things like Acorn Antiques and, of course, Summer Holiday with Darren Day.
I have played the Palladium 7 times. 7 times. I feel so proud and lucky. So yes, Summer Holiday was an absolute dream show for me. Playing the bad, sort of wicked, over-the-top nutter of a bonkers American mum to Claire Buckfield on tour, and then Isla Fisher, the screen actress, was my daughter on the Return to Blackpool. We did it in a summer season in Blackpool. So that was fun. And with my mate Darren Day, it was a great show, Summer Holiday, the original version of it. And then West End, you were saying, what about West End? I did Animal Crackers at the Lyric, which was the show based on the Marx Brothers comedy. And that was the most astounding piece of theatre I think I've ever been lucky enough to be in. The three boys were so sensational that were the Marx Brothers. And then, of course, that's Showbiz at the Phoenix. And then latterly, I did Shout, the most amazing 60s musical, where I played one of 5 sort of divas we were, if you like, with 4 other extraordinary ladies. And we did all the hits, you know, the Tony Hatch hits and Dusty Springfield and et cetera, et cetera. And that was at the German Street Theatre, which is phenomenal, one of my favourite spaces in the world. And then Victoria Wood's musical Acorn Antiques at the Haymarket. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't describe what that was like. That was possibly one of the highlights of my life. I was brought in to cover Julie Walters as Mrs. Overall and Celia Imrie as Miss Babs. But while I was in rehearsals, Sir Trevor Nunn said to me, please will you do these parts as well? So I actually had my track, 2 principals and 4 characters to understudy. It wasn't easy, and I never went on as Julie or Celia, but I'm glad because I think the audience would have wanted their money back. But even though I can do, you know, I do a good Mrs. Overall, but it wasn't that Julie Walters was the funniest thing I've ever seen on stage in my life. It was watching people bend in half for 2.5 hours. It was those who are listening who saw it will vouch for it. It is the funniest thing you've ever seen, and to be part of it and be directed by Trevor Nunn be choreographed by Stephen Mear. It doesn't get any better.
One thing that's clear is you've made a lot of friends or mates in the industry, and that's one of the joys of
Yeah.
Panto, isn't it? More so than anything else, I think, with Panto, because you bring so many different people together from different walks of life. Without Panto, you'd never have met Suzanne Dando, possibly. You know, and
No.
it's fabulous, isn't it? That's one of the joys of it.
It really is, actually. Yeah, you just reminded me of another couple of stories. I worked with, sadly, we just lost him, Jeff Capes. Do you remember him? The strong man, shot putter. Yeah. So he was in my pantomime in Lewisham, and he was adorable. He wasn't a theatrical at all, but he was just really entered into it. The sweetest man, people like that. You would never have got to meet Jeff Capes and ask him about his time as a top athlete. One of my fascinating castings was Reading, and I was cast as Aladdin at the Hexagon. I think it was about 1986, because I would also play Peter Pan there. I'd forgotten about that. I played Peter Pan as well when I was slimmer, yeah, and younger. So we were due to have Frankie Howard as the genie of the lamp, and then literally the shortest time ever before there was some sort of injury. I can't remember too much about it, and the inspired casting of George Takei from Star Trek, Mr. Sulu, was brought in to be I rubbed the lamp and Sulu appeared. Unbelievable. The place was a sellout. The Star Trek fans would come from literally all over the world to see the show. And he was divine. And I've seen him recently. We've kept in touch all those years. He always sent me Christmas cards and has the most beautiful handwriting you've ever seen. And I went to see him recently at the Charing Cross Theatre in his show, and it was so lovely to hook up with him again. So that's, unusual castings. When I used to love Star Trek as a kid, little did I know I'd become friends with Sulu from the bridge, and also hear all the gossip about what everyone was really like on Star Trek. It was amazing.
Now, the other thing is you've taken your show and your act all over the world. And when variety theatre started to fade away, variety on television came in for a little while, and then there's not so much of that anymore, apart from talent shows and stuff. But variety really happened in hotels and in all-inclusive resorts and on cruise ships. And you've done quite a bit of that as well, haven't you?
25 years of... I sounded like Danny LaRue then. 25 years. Yeah, I think it's about 25, 30 years doing the ships. Not constantly, mixed with other work as well. But a majority of the wages each year have been through some phenomenal trips on cruise ships. And they are the best place you can work now. They really are. We don't have those, as I was mentioning earlier, those dinner cabaret restaurants for people to cut their teeth on. We do have the holiday resorts, of course, and there are many of those, Parkdean, Haven, away resorts, Butlins, of course. There are, of course, some fantastic venues around the country on holiday parks, but, those cabaret venues. So really, the ships are the new cabaret venues. The theatres are state-of-the-art. You play to 3,000 people a night. I used to play on those ships where 1,500 people per sitting. So you'd have an early dinner sitting, then a late dinner sitting. You do your show twice in one night. And where are you going to get 3,000 people come and see you? It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And they come whoever's on. They don't really, they might sort of go, oh, it's that I don't really like, a pianist or whatever. They might not come, but generally, people have dinner and go to the show. It's what they do. So being exposed to a lot of people, but I feel sorry for any youngsters with any talent. Where do they work? Where are they going to do their grounding? I suppose they can there's a couple of summer seasons out there that are traditional, really, like Cromer, Clacton. They do their proper production shows, and I miss those. That's how I started at Butlins, with the production shows and being a soubrette, singer, dancer. I wasn't even doing comedy then, really, but I learned a lot about comedy because of the comedic acts that were on with us. And 23 weeks, it's the best grounding you can ever have for going into the business. Different show every night.
Yeah, thankfully, although, variety theatres and variety generally seems to have faded away, pantomime hasn't. It seems to be going from
Yeah,
strength to strength, which is absolutely fabulous. But from your
yeah.
point of view, what is it you love about panto?
Gosh, so many things. Okay, for me as a traveller throughout the country and all over the world, for me, pantomime is a time to settle down, literally unpack and get get involved in the dressing room and setting up my room like another mini home and decorating it like a grotto. I'm known for it. That was one of my favourite things, but it's really about seeing the faces of the generations. So you'll have the grandma bringing the kids and their daughter and son with their grandchildren. You know what I mean? It's that lovely eclectic mix of all ages, all sharing the same vision, all sharing the same laughter, the same involvement, the audience participation, the excitement. Oh, it's absolute magic, and it still gives me such a thrill all these years later, and I take it seriously as well. I remember being around some youngsters from college, I think, just chatting away, and they really, they sort of were not belittling it. They were saying, "Oh, it's good. Yeah, I want to get panto because it's a good laugh, isn't it? And you can sort of muck about and do." And I went, "Sorry, what? Sorry, what?" And they went, "Well, it's all sort of you can make up what you do." And so I went, no, no. There's a structure. I said the principals have the facility to be able to ad lib. If there's something happened in the audience, of course I'd react outside of my lines and then go back into the script again. It's what I'm booked for. That's fine. I was in one once where a couple of chorus were mucking about, and you just think, no, 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 pull it back. And we did, they learned, and it was lovely. But it's the pulling together, it's the teamwork. As a solo act, it's the working on routines, fine tuning them, coming off and saying to the dame, "Oh, I've thought of another line. If I say that before you say that, is that okay? Oh, yeah, yeah, try it, try it." That's what I love about it. It's real proper teamwork.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you've hit on there is something that every audience member will come, they'll have a great time, but
Mm.
if you ask them to sum up panto in any one word, discipline would never come into it, because they think that because it is so relaxed and enjoyable and so much
Yeah,
fun, it looks, I mean, it is organized chaos because so much discipline is involved, but nobody really
yeah.
realizes that, do they?
I think they can obviously see a structured dance routine, etc. And they'll know that the comedy routines, the sort of lovely, beautiful kitchen scene routines, or slapstick or slosh routines are pretty much set. They have a structure, but the professionals know where they can go with certain bits of it, and the audience don't know that. They don't know, I don't think. Or actually, saying that, they'll always come up and go, "Oh, we came to see you, and we were in the night when blah blah blah."
Yeah.
That and you go, "Oh, were you?" But it happens every night. But structure's important, discipline's important, and also, the discipline's important for another reason. When you've got 2 or 3 shows every day for 8 weeks, like I've got 98 shows ahead of me at Windsor this year. We had 97 last year. If you don't keep it disciplined and the show runs over, someone's taking the mickey out of timing on different spots, whatever it is, it doesn't filtrate a good feeling through the company. It's a big respect for everybody, I think. Just, make it work, enjoy yourself when you're out there, but be wary because you don't want to run over. And also, audiences don't want to be sat down for too long.
No.
Give them value for money, but like you say, discipline and isn't really a word that you want to use about panto. But I think that's important to know that.
Especially for young children who may never have
Yes,
been to the theatre before, and their
correct.
attention span is not going to be that long. So that's why everything has to be as tight as it can be, and shows must not overrun, because people are being self-indulgent or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And pace is everything. Pace, pace, pace. Often the directors will say that's the first word out of their mouths. And that only comes with knowing your lines intimately and getting a couple under your belt, because obviously there's a few gaps when you first open because you're going, "Oh, what's next?" But that's fine. and then the pace kicks in, and then you find your way.
Yeah, but anybody who doesn't work in the business probably thinks pace is rattling through everything. It's not throwing gags away. It's not rattling through important lines in the story, in the narrative. It's about picking up on cues tightly and not sort of labouring
exactly
things.
It. Correct. Couldn't word it better. That's all. It just move it with enthusiasm, because if you keep your energy up on stage, the energy in the audience maintains. Going back to what you were saying about attention span, do you not think that, I hate to say the word, but the C word, COVID time, people, I think there's a little bit of attention span has been lost through people have been, we've all got the remote controls on, and people have such power over everything. They scroll on the phones. Everyone's quick. Scroll, watching Netflix, scroll, click, 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 click. Everybody's hasn't got that sort of sit down, relax, take it all in attitude as much as maybe before. I might be wrong.
No, I agree.
But it's something I've noticed with all of us. And of course, children that have sadly gone through that time. And of course, phones and iPads and stuff and video games, everything's 90 miles an hour, isn't it, for a lot of youngsters? So yeah, we've just got to keep them interested, really. Keep them in the palm of your hand and give them the best entertainment, bring them joy, and most importantly, make everybody lose whatever they've got on their minds when they walk in that theatre. It's the best experience. We want to make it magical. We have special effects. We have surprises. We have beautiful costumes. The lighting makes a difference to everything. Up-to-date songs, mashups of songs that you would never put together that really work and make you sit up and listen. I've got all excited now. I wish I had my script. I want to start learning my part.
Okay, one final question for you, and it's a tough one.
Okay.
You've done 40-odd pantos. What's your favourite panto title or story?
Cinderella. You can't beat it. It's just the one. It's also got like what I call the money shot, where you've got the transformation scene, which everybody's waiting for, to see Cinderella's dress, the magic of her sending her to the ball, etc., and the need to tie up that story and make her, make it all a happy ending. Second place, and almost on a par with that, is Aladdin. When Aladdin is done right, when the jewel cave is like, oh, wow, takes your breath away. Costume-wise can be extraordinary as well. For me, being in it, Aladdin's still one of my favourites, as you asked me before.
Yeah.
Spirit of the Ring, 100%. Cinderella, Aladdin, hands down for me.
And we're seeing less principal boys now,
Yes.
which I'm not criticising or saying is a bad thing, but as a principal boy, I think most performers would say Aladdin's probably the best role.
It's exhausting. I always, yeah, it is, because I've done so many principal boys, being in like high boots or high shoes, and it's been exhausting for that alone. But then the running around, the fight scenes, the sword fights, the cave scene, in and out the cave, all of that business, and all the while thinking, oh, everybody's upstairs having a cup of tea right now. When you've got that end of Act One closer, when it's all about you. I like last year I was Fairy Bowbells in Dick Whittington, but I was able to go up and put the kettle on really early and wait for them all to come up from the storm scene, which closed Act One. And there's always something quite nice about that, when you go, I'm not in this bit. Yeah. But then I opened Act Two, so there you go.
It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. Hilary, thank you so much for talking to us.
And I hope you get a chance to see the Theatre Royal Windsor and see me give my fairy godmother this year.
What a nice way to end with a plug for what I'm sure will be another fabulous pantomime in Windsor this Christmas. That's it for now, though. Don't forget to subscribe through your favourite podcast app. And make sure you join me, Martin Ballard, next time for episode 118, when I'll be joined by Simon Sladen and David Ashley to focus on another pantomime title, and this time it's the turn of Aladdin.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.